Welcome to LA84's Summer Splash. This is a brief tutorial on how to judge the basic components of a springboard jump, skill, or dive. This covers the basics which can then be assembled to better understand, coach, and judge more complex somersaulting and twisting dives. This also shows coaches what diving judges are looking for to better prepare their athletes. The 5 components of a springboard jump, dive, or skill are: number 1, the starting position; number 2, the approach or the back press; number 3, the takeoff; number 4, the flight, which includes the height, the position, the rotation, and the twist; and number 5, the entry, is the dive over, short, straight in, with splash, or clean. Let's go over the starting position. Divers should know their order and adjust the fulcrum immediately after a previous diver enters the water. They should then climb onto the board and wait patiently for their name to be called. They should acknowledge once the diver listens to the announced dive. They then should acknowledge the judges with a confident smile and a slight nod, then proceed to the starting position. Number 2, the approach and back press. For the forward approach, divers can do a standing, a hurdle, a one-step hurdle, or a full approach for all forward and reverse dives. Notice this diver's posture in the starting position. Pay attention to the length and how even each step is before the power step and push into the hurdle. At the top of the hurdle, notice the step out and stretch while waiting with his arms up coming into the end of the diving board, then a precise 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock arm circle. Specific things to notice on this diver's back press are: first, how he bends his knees to push the diving board, keeping his chest tall, and secondly, his arms have a full straight arm circle from 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock. Number 3, the takeoff. Center of gravity is defined by the imaginary line from the feet and the knees, the hips, and the shoulders, and finally the head. Diver's angle of takeoff generally means where the diver's center of gravity is as the springboard propels them into the air. We want to make sure diver has a safe center of gravity and angle of takeoff so they don't come back into the diving board as well as go too far away from the diving board. I do like to see a diver lead with their hands versus their shoulders, as that keeps a much safer distance from the edge of the springboard. Number 4 is the flight of the dive, which includes the height, the position, and the rotations and or twists. For the height, it's always nice to see a diver jump higher than everybody else in the contest to make sure that is rewarded. You want a diver to have the proper height to be able to do the number of somersaults or twists that they're trying. The position, you want to make sure diver has the proper straight, tuck, or pike position, and the rotation versus twist. 90 degrees equals fail. 5th and final component of a dive for judges is the entry. I like to look at each entry and think to myself, is it over, is it short, or is it straight in? Entry should be judged as only one component of the dive, but I found it to be the most important as it's the last thing the judges see. Keep in mind that starting position, approach, back press, takeoff, height, flight, position, in addition to the final element of the entry, so you judge the whole dive, not just the finish. I like to look at distance from the springboard. Correct distance on fronts and reverses is 2 to 5 feet, and for backs and inwards, 2 to 4 feet. I look to see, I will score a dive higher if it is over because he's done the complete rotation plus a little extra, versus if they are short, then they didn't complete the correct somersault rotation or twist. If a dive is straight in, it's when the entire body goes through the same hole that the hands create. A rip entry is when a diver enters the water, brings the entire splash below the surface. This mostly happens when a diver goes straight in, but can occur when a diver is barely short, which is preferred a vertical, or sometimes when the diver executes a save on an over dive. Now, let's go over vocabulary to be used while judging diving. At the top of the judging scale is excellent, which is a perfect score of 10. A very good dive deserves a score of 8.5 to 9.5. A good dive is scored 7 to 8. A satisfactory dive is 5 to 6.5. A deficient dive scores between 2.5 and 4.5. An unsatisfactory dive is 0.5 to 2. If a dive is completely failed, it is given a score of 0. While judging, I like to see all 5 components of the dive, then use the appropriate vocabulary word to describe my initial impression of the dive. For example, a diver does a satisfactory dive. I like to say satisfactory but over, so the dive should score 6 to 6.5, versus satisfactory but short. The dive will be on the lower end of that vocabulary word. using the scale of 5 to 5.5. Next is approximately 2 minutes of dives judged using the judging keywords along with over, short, or straight in to help find the top, bottom, or middle of the scoring for each dive. Thanks for watching our brief tutorial on how to judge the basic components of a springboard dive. Have a safe and fun summer.